Alright y'all, so this is gonna be a very different video. I'm honestly just gonna open up and talk about the very worst thing I've ever done in my fitness journey that all in all probably shaved a good like 6 months of progress away from me. So I'm gonna just lay out the story, hope y'all enjoy and learn from my mistakes. We'll get right into it. Also, by the way, I'm currently back in Bangkok at Jets Fitness, so shout out to them for letting me film this video. But with that said, let me set up the background of the story. So growing up, I was always a super skinny kid, definitely on the leaner side naturally. And my diet from the minute I started working out to the end of high school, so roughly like 2.5 years, was admittedly pretty clean and conducive to making gains. I ate a lot of stir fry at home, which consisted of a ton of vegetables, a ton of protein, specific lean sources of protein like chicken breast, pork tenderloin, etc. On top of that, because generally you eat stir fry with rice separately, I was able to moderate my carbohydrate intake by simply eating less rice here and eating more stir fry, you know. On top of that, immediately when I started going to the gym when I was a sophomore in high school, I was completely hooked. I went every single day because I remember thinking to myself, no one else is gonna do that, so I'm gonna do that. And I pretty much kept some form of that up all the way until I graduated high school 2.5 years later in 2017. And quite frankly, outside getting good grades, I really felt like fitness was the only other thing I was really good at, so I leaned into it very hard. But then after high school, I started my next chapter in life as a freshman in college. Now, I went to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. As you know, there's a lot going on there. And specifically because of the dining hall, it was a much more challenging environment in terms of regulating my dieting habits and goals. Now, on the workout side, it was much easier. In fact, as a freshman specifically, because there was a lot of change around me in my external life outside the gym, working out, following my workout routine, and pursuing my passion of getting aesthetics soon took over more and more priority in my life. So I kind of had this mismatch, right? On the workout side, everything was great. I was going to the gym, I was super motivated, prioritized it perhaps even too much. On the dieting side, I was finding it much more challenging to really stay locked in, you know. Also real quick guys, if you're looking for some high quality gym wear that's also reasonably priced, definitely check out Able. They're probably the most underrated clothing brand for that reason. They launched some new items recently, so definitely check that out and use code PATH to get an extra 10% off at checkout. It honestly is a really great way to support me while also giving yourself a 10% discount. So support is much appreciated. Let's get back to the video. And ultimately, after an entire first semester of college struggling on my diet, I got to my highest body fat percentage ever at around roughly 15%. And it was still relatively lean. You can see my abs. I'm putting pictures up here right now. And you'll see why this is important. Please stay with me. But personally, after that first semester, I'm like, okay, I want to get back to where I was, around 10 to 12% body fat. So you know what? I need to start dieting. A big struggle of mine was the dining hall because there's a lot of temptation around with, you know, going for the orange chicken instead of the chicken breast. So I knew there were some days that I would lapse. So as a way to kind of provide some cushion, I incorporated a ton more cardio into my routine. And eventually, after doing that for roughly the entire second semester of my freshman year, I got back to around 10 to 12% body fat. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I can definitely do this. But little did I know that this was the start of the worst mistake I've ever made in my fitness journey. And to explain this next part, let's get a little bit of a change in scenery. All right, so I'm currently back in Bangkok, and 7 years ago, I came here for the very first time. And without being overly dramatic, it was truly an eye-opening experience. I met my extended family for the first time. I got close to my culture. I actually got to speak Thai, and it made me realize like how different people's lives can actually be. And quite frankly, it made me understand that if it wasn't for my parents coming to the US, I would be living an extremely different life. Probably wouldn't be TylerPath, to be completely honest. Because back in the US 7 years ago, me and my family, we weren't exactly financially secure, but comparatively in Thailand, being super grateful of the situation I'm in, it really lit a fire under my ass and made me think, okay, once I get back in the States, I gotta lock in. Now, freshman year was more kind of for socializing, having fun, finding out my passions, but if I was supposed to lock in sophomore year, I needed something to like lock in towards, you know? But ultimately, I lacked a strong career path at the time. My passion was in fitness, but here I am in business school. So at the end of the day, I lacked a clear direction on what I should actually be focusing on. And when fitness is the only stable part of your routine and everything else is so up in the air, friends, career path, lack of direction outside fitness, naturally you start to gauge your success more and more on fitness goals. And with fitness goals comes more extreme goals, and I will get into what happened next. Now, little did I know at the time, this was the start of a pretty dark time in my life where I dubbed the Hermit Phase, which is basically, think of the winter arc, but like back in 2018, and instead of gains and bulking, it's something very stupid that I'm about to get into. So here I am, I wanna lock in. By the time I get back to university, I'm still teetering around 10 to 12% body fat, but once again, due to college life, I once again found it harder and harder to sustain a lean physique. And to be completely honest, it was pretty much straight body dysmorphia. And I know this because looking back at the pictures, I was still relatively lean and I still ate pretty clean, but I was just overly hard on myself because again, to me, it was one of the only important things I had going on in my life at the time. And it culminated to the point that one day, cold turkey, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna try to get as lean as possible. No, this was not for a bodybuilding show. This was not for shooting content at the time. I didn't even do social media. In my head, it was literally for my own vanity. And I remember thinking in my head, I would never be the biggest person in the gym, I'd never be the strongest one, but you know, I think I definitely can be the most lean. So I basically committed to getting absolutely shredded. And my plan was following a 24-hour fast and eating at 1,500 calories per day. Now, if you're unfamiliar with intermittent fasting, a 24-hour fast is essentially giving yourself 4 hours out of the day to eat all your food, with the rest of the 20 hours being fasting. All you can do is pretty much just drink water and White Monster. Just don't drink White Monster on an empty stomach. Learn the hard way. Now, this sounds completely insane, and in order to kind of keep my sanity in check, there was one light at the end of the tunnel each week, and that is, at the time, cheat days were extremely popular on YouTube. Like, there's a bunch of people making cheat day videos. In fact, it was one of my earliest videos back in early 2019, late 2018, documenting myself binge eating. So as it sounds like, I basically allowed myself one cheat day per week, every single week, still adhering to my fasting schedule, meaning I only gave myself 4 hours to eat pretty much whatever I want, which, if it sounds like binge eating, yeah, it kind of was. And if this sounds extremely different from what I normally preach today, that's really because it is. It's been a learning experience over the years. Now, if you're interested in beneficial dieting advice, definitely check out my recent video, What to Do If You're Skinny Fat, link in the card here. Of course, during all this, I was still training regularly. The plan was to keep this up for 3 months. I believe I ended up doing like 2.5 months of this. Now, as you can imagine, this led to a few things over those 2.5 months that also did end up trickling down later past the duration. Now, first off, that's the fact that I was pretty much binge eating on a daily basis, not only because of the cheat days and the restricted calorie intake, but honestly just because of the rigid fasting schedule. Like, if you're only giving yourself 4 hours to eat out of the day, you're gonna have like 1 to 2 big ass meals. Second thing is, while I did get leaner, I wouldn't say I got more aesthetic. In fact, I think I looked worse because I actually lost a bit of muscle during that time, highlighted by the fact that my strength was decreasing across all my lifts. So the funny thing is, while getting more shredded would have theoretically supposed to make me look more aesthetic, spreading out that duration across months ended up making me look worse. Like, bro, such a waste of time, man. The third thing is, as I got leaner, I thought more and more about food. Like, pretty much throughout the entire day, I was thinking about what my next meal was. In class, I would literally look up the U of I dining app. So while I was like super locked into my fitness goals, like everything else was kind of falling apart. Maybe falling apart is a reach because my grades were still like amazing, but a lot of my mental energy did go towards food, dieting and stuff, and it's something I would never do today with everything going on because it's just impossible mentally to function at a high level while dieting that hard. And side tangent, this is exactly why that in the short term, I definitely don't have any plans to compete in bodybuilding because I know it will require me to diet down and be ferociously hungry again. And while I think it would be a shame if I don't at least try to compete once, I just don't think now is the right time, especially if I'm focusing on social media and growth. And the fourth thing that a lot of people might not think about is I actually got sick way more often, like the common cold, stomach flu. I'll get a lot of random joint pain during my exercises. And this is ultimately because I was eating at a very low calorie amount and quite frankly not providing my body the right nutrients to actually keep my immune system strong. Now the good news is it wasn't all bad. There was one good thing that came out of all of this, and that's the fact that it started my habit of working out first thing in the morning, which I still do today. Now thankfully after the 2.5 months, I wisened up and began reverse dieting back up to a healthy amount of calories. Honestly, there were also some social reasons that kind of made me realize, like, what am I doing here? There's way more important things going on. For one thing, while sophomore year was the darkest time of probably my life, it was the year I met most of my close friends that I still speak to this day from college. Notably my roommates, Dylan, as you saw in that previous video. So my social life started existing again. Secondly, I started having real tangible goals outside of fitness. School was going really well. Secondly, despite being involved with 10 different clubs freshman year, I was involved with 0 by the end of sophomore year, but I had a way stronger sense of direction on what I should be working towards, especially since I really started social media back in 2019. You can even see the old videos from way back then. And that's when I started realizing everything I was doing physically to my body was kind of just self-imposed on myself and didn't really make a lot of sense. You know, it finally made me realize that for someone like me who is naturally already lean, I really have no reason to try to be even leaner and push it, especially at the cost of feeling so much more awful and going through that whole mental ordeal. But it was a good learning experience overall. So I think the big lesson from this terrible mistake that I made can be summed up here. One thing, the best diet isn't going to be the diet that gets you in the best shape. At the end of the day, the best diet is the one that you personally can stick to over a long period of time and that is sustainable for you. And that is why I preach so hard about finding a balance, because what is sustainable for you is generally going to be the healthiest route, not only physically, but also mentally. And the second thing is, at the end of the day, there are things that are more important than fitness. I like to think of fitness as the best secondary side quest on your overall bigger main quest, which is your life. But the minute fitness really starts becoming your main quest, that is when I really urge you to do some self-reflecting and see what direction am I really taking in life, what is important to me. And nowadays, I'm proud to say that, dude, I love what I eat. Like, I don't really struggle with my diet anymore, but I still think I am harsh on myself. I truly believe that I don't really struggle with body dysmorphia as much as some of my other peers that are also in the industry. Now, of course, that's just a wild guess, but the point is, like Christian Guzman says, I'm proud, but not satisfied. And ultimately, if you want more personal guidance on getting to your fitness goals, avoiding the mistakes I've made before in the past as well, and ultimately making fitness a stable part of your lifestyle, not in the way where I'm gonna make you do a 24-hour fast, obviously, then I highly recommend you consider applying to my one-on-one fitness coaching program, where I do just that. I've helped hundreds of people at this point transform their physiques for the better and pretty much lay out to you exactly what you need to do in order to get to your dream physique, or at least make very significant strides towards it. So if that sounds interesting to you, apply to the link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed the diverse array of scenery I gave you in this video while I'm out here in Bangkok. And comment down below, what is your worst mistake that you've made in your fitness journey? I'm actually very curious to hear. So hit subscribe to love your physique. Hit the bell button to get notifications right as I release my YouTube videos. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.